If you are not at the table, then you are on the menu. No one is born a good citizen. No nation is born a democracy. Rather, both are processes that continue to evolve over a lifetime. And for a nation to become a democracy, the people of that nation must get involved in the political process and structure. You are welcome to Chapters, and I'm very excited about today's episode. We are talking about politics and understanding the political structures that exist in our nation. Because like I said, we need to begin active citizenship where we engage in that structure. I'm more excited because I'm talking about it through the eyes of a book written by a woman. Yes. She's the author of the amazing book, Love Does Not Win Elections. Ayisha Osori is a writer, a lawyer, and an advocate for social justice. You are welcome to Chapters.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. And I must say, she came all the way from Abuja to record this, so I'm truly grateful.
I am grateful
for that.
I need my book in more hands, so this is helping me.
This book must go in more hands. Trust me on that one. But before we go into the content, because why I thought this episode was important is that a lot of us feel very passionate about our nation and want change and all of that, but do we really understand the political structure and process on ground as it is now? Mm-hmm. And even when you then get into it, like you did, are you ready? Emotionally, spiritually, financially, mentally, relationally. This book opened my eyes. Like I said, I'm not even going to pretend as if I know anything about Nigeria, anything. No, I'm officially...
You look at everything with fresh eyes.
With fresh eyes. It opened my eyes.
It's important.
But why did you, and you wrote it in the book, but for those watching, you were not someone who was involved in politics.
No.
Before this, you had nothing to do with politics. So when did your journey into politics start, and why? When and why did it start?
Sure. I say so in the book, but I guess I was raised by middle-class academics. And so in my mind, politics never really entered, honestly. I just thought, get a good... Study hard in school, that was the trajectory. Get a good job, 9 to 5. Just the soul of a civil servant, which my parents were. Earn a salary every month, and, your world will fall into place.
Fine.
But then I had a personal experience where I had to deal with the judiciary. And I realized that between 2010 and about 2011, 12. Okay. And that experience really opened my eyes like nothing else could have about how rotten our system is. And then before then, I started writing articles. So I was just one of these people who, as you said, every Nigerian is passionate about Nigeria. We talk about Nigeria over dinner, at parties. It's always about Nigeria. You keep thinking, how hard can it be? And I used to write articles in This Day, The Lawyer. And then I started writing, when I moved to Abuja in 2009, I started writing for Leadership, which is more northern based. And my articles sort of evolved from just complaining, as we do, to sort of trying to look at the solutions. And then I started thinking, what about implementing some of these solutions? So it was sort of like a gradual process. And so in 2012, I left private sector. I used to work for British American Tobacco. And then I decided to join a non-profit organization called the Nigerian Women's Trust Fund, which was set up to try and get more women into government, and decision-making. Because the truth is that Nigerian women make up half of the population, but we're not represented adequately.
And not at the table.
Exactly. So we're on the menu. So all this was at the back of my mind when I said, okay, let me, lead this small non-profit and see how much work I can do. And so 2014 was rolling around. And again, I wasn't thinking about politics. I just knew that I wanted to get more women in. And typically, the kind of Nigerian that goes into elective politics is of the same mold, whether they're men or women. It's a place to go and make money. It's an industry. It's a career for them. Yeah. And I think politics needs more enlightened people, not people who are going there because they're going to earn a living from it. And so that's why I just said, you know what, let me just do this.
Let me put my money where my mouth is.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of telling other women, why don't you run?
Let me get it myself.
Let me just run myself and see what happens. And so that's why I did it.
So moving on, you then joined the party. And for anyone watching right now who then wants to get into the political process at this point in time, let's not just from this, what would be the advice to them at this time?
Read my book. Really, honestly. I would say do it the right way. I would say find a better party. I would say don't
There are
look...
only two, really.
I know, but don't focus on those, honestly. Join a smaller party where you know that the primaries will be fairer, where there's more intent to build proper structures. I guess what I'm trying to say is, right now, because of what I know, I look at everybody who's been elected with suspicious eyes. I wonder, what have you done? You know, you might have... I actually have heard that I had it easy, you know.
Wow.
Yeah, no,
You did, with all of this.
No, this is very tame, apparently, compared to what candidates have to go through in other parts of Nigeria. I mean, I was running an FCT. FCT is very cosmopolitan.
Exactly.
There's rituals. There's all sorts of things. So I would advise what I'm saying now is, I guess, I would be saying don't try to do the easy way. Which the easy way is going to the big parties. The primaries are not easy. It's not to make it seem like it's a cakewalk.
Yes.
But if you want to have a good chance to really do what you want to do, if you're there to do good, I would say try and find alternative platforms.
Okay, but having said that, and I want us to really then go into the details of the book, going into almost, there were issues of tribe and race. So you lived in Abuja, but you don't come
I'm
from
not
the
from
FTC.
there. I'm not an indigene.
Indigene.
Is the word that we use,
And
yes.
that was a challenge.
It was.
You come from Kogi
I
State.
come from Kogi State, yes.
So
even though I've never lived there, so I'm almost 40, but at the time, never lived there for longer than 2 nights. But I'm supposed to go back there when it's time to run. I think that's just absolutely crazy.
And is that, according to PDP, is that the law, not just for the FCT, but for any state?
It's actually not a law, it's just custom. There's nothing in our constitution that says somebody who's from Ogun cannot run in Sokoto. It's just the custom. It's just, will the people accept you or not? And for that, I have to applaud Lagos, because Lagos has a few House of Reps members who are not indigent. So fantastic. That's what we want. We want to build one Nigeria, where you live, where you pay taxes, is your home.
Exactly.
Why do you have to? Yeah, why do you have to move across the country? Exactly. You've put roots down in a community. You have friends there. You have ties there. You have roots there. And then somebody says to you, "Oh no, but you're not from here. Go, maybe 20-hour journey somewhere else where nobody knows you and you know nobody."
Life.
So I find that the premise of elective representation in Nigeria is actually false, because it's not about you've built ties and communities. It's just rooted to your blood and where your parents said they came from, which could be anywhere, actually.
Interesting. Now, we'll go on a short break now, but when we then come back, we're going to go into the... So the first journey was just, fine, now I'm a card-carrying member of this party, I can run. But that was just the beginning of the journey of a lifetime.
Lifetime, actually. It is a lifetime. No, but it's true. I'm going to be talking about this till I die, pretty much.
We will. But we have to go on a short break now.
All right.
So when we come back, this is a very interesting episode, and I think it's one that would educate us really about our nation, Nigeria, and the structures that exist in our political setup. So don't go anywhere. We'll come back after this short break. You are welcome back to Chapters. And once again, on today's episode, we are talking about politics. And I'm just going to read a quote from, in fact, it's on the front cover of the book, written by Feyi Fawemi. And he says, "This book is a baton. Those who are contemplating politics in Nigeria would do well to pick it up." I totally agree. So let us now come and break it down for us. So the journey happened. You picked up the card.
Sure.
What were now the next steps you had to take? And I want us to talk about money here.
Sure.
Your book says love does not win elections. Some people think money wins elections in Nigeria, but it plays a very
critical role.
What was your money journey like in this election?
Well, I have to start with saying that. So first of all, as you said, I had to pick up my nomination forms and expression of interest forms, and those are very expensive. But the total came to about 2.5 million. There's 2 forms you collect at the same time. One is called the nomination form, where the party members have to nominate you. Each signature costs money, and depending on what you are running for, the cost of that form will be different. So in 2014, when I was running, the president had to pay 22 million for his own package.
Yes.
For House of Reps, for House of Reps, it was 2.5. So, but women were lucky. In PDP, they were waiving one set of fees, so I had to only pay 500. But that was the official fee. There were all other unofficial taxes that I had to pay to the party, which brought everything up to a little under 1 million. Now, don't forget, I was working for an NGO. I definitely didn't have that kind of money. But I had savings, and my savings were with my mother. So my first stop, yeah, she did. She said, my first stop was to go to her and say, oh, I'm deciding to do this. You know, actually quite scared because my mother is very strict, and even though I'm old, I still fear my mother. So with a bit of trepidation to say I'm going into politics, which growing up I'd heard was for bad people who had nothing better to do. I was surprised when she was encouraging, but she said, I won't give you your money. What I'll do is loan you 1M, interest-free. So I now had to go and look for the rest of the money for my campaign. So I had to raise money. But how did I know how much I wanted? So I went to a political veteran who blew up this big list of jeeps so that my first budget was like almost 100M or something ridiculous. So I quickly decided to sit down and do my own budget, which came to about 15M for the run.
Only?
Just at least conservatively. And I've been told that the fact that I could have a budget meant I was not a serious politician. No serious politician has budgets. No. But anyway, I was a novice learner, so all that. So I started writing letters to a few friends, just saying, you know, I'd like to do this. This is why I'm running. Support me, and here's the bank account. And I was really surprised. Like, the money just started rolling in. So I raised about 10.
So people actually were very supportive.
And that was another revelation. Speaking of all the revelations, I was pleasantly surprised that people in the middle class, like me and you, you know, who are just tired of complaining. And so even though not everybody wants to go into the fray, what I learned was that many people are going to support the people that,
are brave enough to say, I'm going to go into this.
Exactly. So don't feel, so I guess one lesson is don't feel worried about where the money will come. You'll find the money if you have values that people can identify with. If people feel like you'll be the kind of candidate they'll be proud of when you're in office.
And that will not get there.
Exactly. So, and I guess I had a decent enough reputation that many people felt they wanted to back me. And so I was surprised. 6 weeks run, I raised a little under 10M. But then in the book, you find that, so my first hurdle was, I got the forms, but then first of all, you have to find out who's going to fill out the nomination forms. So that's a whole process regarding money. Then there's a screening process. The screening process requires that your party sort of write you a nice letter saying how you've been a decent member. Don't forget, I'm non-existent, really. Exactly. But the truth is, even if I had been a member for a long time, it would still be the opportunity to gouge me, because that's what the political industry is set up for. Every 4 years, people make tons of money from this process. So even if I had been a member for 10 years, the fact that, yes, I would still have had to
because
pay
this is
money.
really the time
this is the time when that's why I said it's an industry.
Yes.
So everybody knows that this is the time where people who want to run are going to be, you know, asking for favors, and every favor comes with a price tag. So I needed my party to write a letter of recommendation that would form part of my screening exercise. They wanted to charge me $250. I think after a lot of bargaining, or was it even $300? I came down to like $150. I remember going to ATM in the middle of the night to go and withdraw money so I could give them that. And then you had to meet the delegates. Now, to meet the delegates are the people who are going to vote for me during the primaries. The delegates are really subjects of the ward chairman. So if you don't curry favor with the ward chairman, wine them, dine them, you know, host them to lunches and things like that, give them transport money when they're going.
How often do you need to do this wining and dining? Is it just a one-off?
Well, not if you're wise. Like, what for me, I ran the campaign like I do everything with a lot of, you know, preparation, and I do it well. So I didn't think meeting the delegates just one time was enough. I felt I needed to meet them lots of times. So the first I had to meet the chairman, set the scene, and I had 10 plus 12. I had 22 chairmen because I had 22 wards across Amak and Bari, my two constituencies. Yes. So I had 22 ward chairmen to wine and dine. I didn't meet all of them because, again, my own political godfather in my own case was not friendly with a few of them. So he only called the ones that he'd be able to, that were he considered his henchmen. So maybe in the end of the day, I interacted with about 18 out of these 22.
You tried?
I did. So that first meeting, you'd give them money, there'll be food, you give them envelopes. It's transport money. To be honest, I thought about it this way. I'm in civil society. When I get invited for meetings, sometimes it's transport money to go back. We don't consider it a bribe. I know that coming from the private sector, I was a bit shocked when I came to the NGO world and I realized that, oh, okay, if I'm coming for a meeting and I'm going back, somebody might give me transport money, but not all the time. So I guess that's the way I rationalize giving money to the chairman. I'm like, okay, they've come out of their houses.
What's the average cost of the transport money?
Well, I give them 10, 15. Yeah, thereabouts. You give them enough to keep them happy when next time you call them. If I give them 2K, the next time I call, nobody might answer. So you have to factor that in. You want to be able to call them again and again. So that was the first one. And the next one with the delegates. So then at that meeting, being happy with me, they promised that they would bring the delegates to me. So I had to rent a hotel, cost money, have refreshments, cost money, bring the delegates, and be ready to give all of them and the chairman transport money to go back. So that was the first time I met them. And then after that, I decided, let me go to each ward and see them in the home state. Exactly. So, and as one chairman warned me, he said the only time you don't give a delegate money is when you don't see him. Each time, if you see the delegate just on the street, better whip out money from your bag and give that. You just do not let a delegate cross you without giving them something.
Because I mean, they're the ones that get you into the first of actually winning the primaries. So to get to that point.
And the key is, many people would tell you, many seasoned veterans of politics would tell you that winning the primaries of the major parties, whether it's PDP, ACN, now APC, AMPP, whatever the major parties are, is the major battle. Many people even spend more money at the primaries than the general election. Because general election, your party will win for you. What you need to struggle to do is win the primaries. Exactly, and then you're on the home stretch. So that sort of summed up all the money I had to spend. And then, of course, there was the final push, maybe before the primaries, was the expectation that people will get, something that they would help them make their minds clear when they're voting.
Money clears the mind.
Yes, it does. Money helps you see clearly.
But which will take me to another point that you raised when we were talking, the godfather perspective. Sure, so money is one part, but you gave an example in the book of a woman who took about 300 and something million to the primaries.
350 million.
Yes.
The way the person told me that story, I was the first time to say she won, because this woman, before the primaries, she bought bikes for these people, she did this, she did that, and on that day she had cash. In Ghana must go 350. The person was very dramatic, million naira, and came out and she didn't win. Really? I was like,
do I have? What are my chances?
Honestly. So for me, it's not always all about the money. In her case, her time was up, The party had probably just said, because she was an incumbent. So she wanted to, yes. And they had probably said, Madam, you've worked enough, you've enjoyed enough, it's time for somebody new. So no matter how much she would have spent, it would not have made a difference. And the person who would have taken her spot might not have spent anything.
That's true.
It would just be the person's time on the roster.
This is the next
person, and the person would just get in. So again, for better or worse, we need to examine our political systems and say, what really should be the selection process, the criteria for parties picking candidates.
And a big part of that selection process is the godfather, is the powers that are behind you.
Sure.
So you also built your own godfather structure. You tried. You had people that knew people. You made some calls. How did you work out that, and how did that help you, at least to some extent?
Well, to the extent that I got to meet, and I'm feeling very grateful here, I guess, now in hindsight, but to the extent that I could get to meet the ward chairman, because you see, the thing is that your parties are not designed to give you any information. So if I'd walked into my FCT office and said, please give me the list of 22 ward chairmen, they'd be looking at me like, where are you coming from? They're not designed to give out any information at all. So the fact that I could use my structures to get access to these ward chairmen and meet with them, that was already a good thing that my godfathers had done for me, or my godmothers had done for me. The fact that I could sit down and engage with the delegates and have them even listen to me, more than other aspirants had even done. So I didn't get to meet all the big masquerades, as I call them. So I tried, but I feel like in the end, the fact that I could get that far, don't forget that I didn't win the primaries, obviously, but there were 4 of us running, and only 2 of us shared the 2 votes. The other 2 got 0 votes.
Yes.
So for me, I was saying, and I'm the outsider. Those other 2 people were ahead. They were in the system. And so I came. So everybody said, you did well. They were actually impressed with me, So, and me, so I felt a bit good that, okay, at least I trounced these 2 men. And me and the incumbent shared all the votes at the primaries. For me, the key lesson is that for people not to be afraid, but to be aware with the book what they're getting themselves into.
That's what it is. It's really a book on awareness. And one of the things that your book made me aware of was the requirement on your school certificates.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
So please tell us about that.
Yes. So as part, I mentioned a screening exercise. So you have plenty of people who want to be candidates, but then your party is supposed to go through a screening exercise, which is where maybe a party would say, oh, you've been guilty of a burglary and things like that, and they'll weed you out. Part of that process is to also give them all your certificates that to show that you've gone to school. But the requirements in our constitution say that to be a member of the House of Reps, or even to be the president, all you need is a school leaving certificate. So in my naivety, I thought, because I have...
After secondary school?
Yes, that's all. So in my naivety, I assumed that having University of Lagos
means at least you've
certificate
gone
means that I have done primary school, and so I don't need to find those. They were adamant I must show them primary school. And I was like, but surely I
Primary
wouldn't do
school.
university without
Without
having
going-
passed. So why don't you just accept? They would not budge. You know, it's like going to one of those ministries where the person is just, this is the way we do it. There's no left or right. There's
Wow.
no middle, just this way. And so I needed to find, luckily I could find my school. I never even got it. So I needed to go send people back to ABU staff school, which is where I went to primary school, to go and start digging up records. You know, like I just find, I'm like, why is the process so tedious? I did do that. And then I got that, the certificate from my old school saying I'd graduated from there in 1979 or some ridiculous time. But for my university, for my secondary school, it was a bit more complicated. I had some statement of results which they claimed that they would not accept because it has to be the original work. So I did what every good Nigerian does.
Which is?
Swear an affidavit that I was burnt to the fire.
Oh, wow. This is not teaching you to do what you should not do.
No, it's not, but it's showing you the hypocrisy of our system. Why would any party be disturbing me and harassing me to go and get them secondary school living when I've shown them university, masters,
exactly,
and they're not interested? So for me, so this is what they deserve, you know. So the truth is, we're a very dysfunctional country, and obviously, I'm not sure whether it's our politics is mirroring our general dysfunction, or our general dysfunction is mirroring our politics. Exactly.
But they're affecting each other one way or the other.
Definitely.
Oh, wow. This is quite a... I mean, I've read the book, but maybe just listening to you talk about it again is like...
Bringing it up.
Where do we start from? Because the question is really, where do we then start from?
Well, we start from what me and you are doing, as far as I'm concerned. We start with having the conversations. The truth is, I say to my friends, you know, my age mates, that, look, I didn't vote until I was 39, for the first time ever. I think that's abysmal and disgraceful. But I'm quite sure that many Nigerians like me, if we're going to be honest.
There's some that I've
and
I've never voted.
So one beginning is, let's start engaging with the younger generation and make them understand how voting is important, but not just voting, how being part of a political community is important.
Exactly.
So that they can start knowing that it's their responsibility, not just to vote every 4 years. Because the truth is, with what I know now, I know that on general election day, while we're all happy lining up with our PVCs, waving them, the battle has been lost. The battle has been lost. We're just there to ratify what the parties have done. If we really want to make meaningful change in Nigeria, politics has to be the part-time profession of every Nigerian. It must be just the same way they tell us to go and farm. Politics has to be the part-time profession of every Nigerian. We need to join the parties. We need to be there in the wards. We need to be having those conversations about why the local government is not working the way it should. That's what happens in all the communities and societies that we seem to admire. Whether it's the UK, whether it's America, everywhere. People belong to wards. They come out for ward meetings. I've been to a few ward meetings in America. They're there. It's an evening. It's a Friday evening where we all want to lie down in our own houses. I know that life is tough in Nigeria. By the time you've done the whole week, you want to just relax. No, if there's a ward meeting, please go for your ward meeting.
You know, I realize from what you're saying, it stems from, because even ordinary, you live in an estate and they say estate meeting.
We won't go.
Nobody shows up.
We're not organizing at all.
Yes.
And the politicians have realized that, and they're very happy to keep it that way. So where we need to be right now is where we have younger people getting into politics.
Yes.
You know, like I remember checking the website for the Labour Party in the UK, and you find that they have junior membership for 16-year-olds, because this is the understanding that as young as 16, you should sort of care about what your community is doing.
Even if you can't vote, at least get in.
Start organizing, like Obama did in 2008. Get out the young people, you know, get them involved, get them caring about the future, their future, you know, and saying politics is the way to secure your future. So I think so we're already starting, you know, what you talked about. We're starting early with this conversation on how we can sort of take back our country, clean up politics, and make governance something that we can all be proud of.
It's one step after the other.
But let's know that we're even taking those steps. Sometimes I get the sense we're not taking the steps.
We can talk.
But if we're not actually actionable, you know, so now talk to your children. Yes, talk to your children on the dinner table. Talk about politics. Say, you know, do you know what's going on?
That's so true.
Yeah, that's what I do with my, what's going on? This is what's going on here. At least, even if you're not going deep, just surface. I tell my children, this is what's happening in the world. Trump just won. This is how people feel. This is what Putin is doing. Now at home, this is what Buhari is doing.
That point is such a deep point, because sometimes it seems the younger generation is so disconnected.
Completely. And, you know, I'm not blaming my parents, but as I said, I wish these were the conversations I was having when I was 16, 17, 18, and then my life would have started a lot earlier. Maybe my country would be a better place, and I would feel safer about the future of my children.
We need to engage our children in understanding just the awareness
And a sense of responsibility.
Yes.
That because you're privileged doesn't mean that the dysfunction in your society is not going to get to you. I want us to raise a new generation of Nigerians that feel responsible for their country.
We still have some more time, but we'll go on a short break now. And when we come back, I want us to just talk a little bit more about women in politics and then learn from your lessons and how to begin to take those steps that you talked about. So we go on a short break, but we will be right back. Welcome back to Chapters, and today's episode for me has been so enlightening, and the word you used has been a revelation on the political structure of our nation. And like we've said, this is to create awareness and to understand that we all need to be engaged. Definitely. Before we went on the break, we're talking about engaging our children. But there was something we talked about in the last segment that I want us to just go into a bit more. Women in politics.
Sure.
And one of the things you said, which I'll read from the book, you said there is a narrative in Nigeria that only women of easy virtue are interested in contesting elections or participating in party politics. You said this narrative is as pervasive as empty water sachets at a motor park. Exactly, pure water. And I understand, because the demands of the political structure, you wrote in your book how sometimes you were called for midnight meetings. In fact, one thing you said was it's better to sleep with your teeth brushed and sleep already showered.
Yeah,
because
shower before. Yeah, there's so many mornings I had to wake up and literally it was like a fire on the mountain. Meanwhile, at the end of the day, nothing important is really happening. So in a way, I almost felt it was a hazing, that kind of, she's a new politician, let's test her resolve. Already, the political terrain for women is difficult. We don't need the name calling, we don't need the innuendos that go around with practicing the trade, so to speak. I look at it this way: if you're a doctor, you're on call, you have to be out at night. If you're somebody who works in investment banking, sometimes you're going to have late night deals. If you're a media person, sometimes you have to edit all night. Nobody calls women in those professions bad names. I agree. Why politics? Why is it different? So for me, I'd like to change that narrative. I'd like the media to help with that, stop portraying women who are in politics as that. And then we need the government and the state to take these types of transgressions very, very seriously. Like things against... Yeah, they are. No, because one of the reasons, to be fair to husbands all over the world, or, at least in Nigeria, sometimes not wanting your wife to go for a late night meeting is not all about maybe control. It's also about concern. It could be about the safety. Our roads are not safe. You can go and meet a policeman, who, something. So I understand that. But I would say, as I said in my book, how many men do I know who, if their wife had to go for a meeting, would get up and drive her there? I think that's what a partnership is. And it would be nice if women who want to step out have the support and partnership of their husbands, their spouses, their family, to make that journey a lot easier. We do need more men and women in politics, but a lot more women. And I think if women had that sort of safety net, it would be easier for them. Fantastic. And going on with that, I want us to now take from your learnings through your journey. And one of the things you mentioned in the book was your lack of, you called it strategic knowledge. You said, my lack of strategic knowledge was not limited to how the primaries worked. That you entered it really, like you said, passion. Just jumped in. Just jumping. And a lot of people truly just jump in. Exactly. Because we think it's what we see, it's what we know, is this coffee table talk we have. Exactly. What are the specific things you learned? And you did write a lot of that. Oh, I can see. You wrote that, but I want you to share before I read that. The key is engage. Sure, definitely. But then, be in the participate. Engage, participate. Yes. Not even necessarily to win, but to let your vote really count. Exactly. Beyond election day. And so that starts with being a party member. So, as you pointed out, I learned a lot of things, and I don't know if even 30 minutes is long enough to say all this, but I would say one of the key things that I learned that I think should be encouraging for every Nigerian is that you will get the support you need. I was really amazed by how many people came and rallied around me. So that was one that, money is always used as a big factor. I didn't raise a lot of money, yes. But, there's this sense that if you don't have any money, you can't run. And I tell people, yes, you can't run if you don't have money. But don't worry, if you are a good candidate, the money will come. So that's one real message I want to send to young people, to women especially. Don't worry, put your faith out there. Come out. If you know they're coming out for values, the people who have the same values with you will support you. That's one. Two, politics is an industry. For me, I didn't realize that. No, it's true. There are people who there's a whole political economy around politics and elections and primaries and managing parties. So let's not be naive. People's livelihoods rely on this
that.
current structure. So anybody that wants to take on this structure needs to recognize that. And understand that we have stakeholders, shareholders, chairmen. Just to think about the normal corporate structure. That's how our political industry is set up. So if you're an outsider, you're going to be looked at with suspicion. So this is where the third lesson comes in. We really need to be part of the parties. And the parties that will not let us join them, ignore them, go and join other ones. So for me, I really want Nigerians to move away from looking at just the two big parties as the only path to success and development in the electoral process. Let's start supporting the smaller parties, the parties that are more willing to be transparent, to have better primaries, to have better delegate selection processes. Let's give them a chance. Yes, then they grow. They will not grow overnight.
Yes.
But if we make indents in 2019, a bit more in 2020.
Exactly. I think sometimes
slowly.
this syndrome of
you want the big thing. No,
now.
We're not going to change anything now, immediately. But if we don't start, they say the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. This first step is please join a party. The parties need us. They're starved of members, of ideas, of resources. And resources is not just, resources is your time. Resources is your ideas. So for me, honestly, I also learned that, no process changes. If this system works for people, they have no incentive to change it. So if you're a Nigerian thinking that our politics need to change, you need to also ask yourself, what are you prepared to do to contribute to that change? Because how it is now is perfect for some people. They love it the way it is. They have no incentive to change it. Yes, there's no change that's ever come because the people who are enjoying it say, oh my God, we're tired of this. We on the outside are going to have to make them change it. So those for me are really key lessons that I really want everybody to take.
You have, like I said again, I'm glad you wrote this book.
Thank you.
Another point that you said, I like this one. You said, mint banknotes. I must.
Yes.
That made me laugh. You said, the newer the notes, the greater the perception of your influence in the world.
Yes.
That's
it's very important. People like clean banknotes. Don't you like clean banknotes?
I do, actually.
Yeah, so I know you're giving them out to your delegates. You're like a goddess or a god.
There are many points you made in the book, but I think at the end of the day, like what you said at the beginning, it's about engaging.
Sure.
And understanding that it is not think long term.
Yeah, I definitely think. I mean, when people say to me, what would you have done differently? I'll say, what I would have done differently is not start 6 weeks before the primaries. What I would be is engaged with my community just long term, like generally just long term, thinking about their well-being, organizing them, helping them to understand the issues better. And so not just to win elections, but just to be a good citizen.
Exactly.
Just being a community member. And community member means you speak as a community, you talk, you organize around issues, and you're there for each other.
I think sometimes it boils down back also to the true passion you have for the people and not just for yourself as the person that wins this
seat. As I said, it comes back to the ethos of politics, and that's what we should also be asking ourselves. What is our politics for in Nigeria? What is politics for? And if we're really honest we're honest with ourselves, politics is a way of making money for most of the people in politics. It's a livelihood. Same way people want to study medicine, same way people want to study. It's not
servanthood.
Yes, it's not.
Service.
Yes, it's not a service to your community. It is just a way to make money. And that's why it's so complicated. That's why it has all these rules. That's why there's all this hoarding of information. That's why the parties are not democratic. That's why you can't know who your party members are. All those things are designed to keep the sector and the industry close to the people who benefit from it. They don't want outsiders.
We need to begin to change. And the change begins with all of us. Little steps. Little steps. Thank you so much. Before I go, because people say, where can they get copies of this?
For people in Lagos, it's on sale at so many places. I think Quintessence, Terra Culture, Pataba Books in Surulere Mall, Page on Allen Avenue, and it's online. It's online. Okada is on Okada Books, Okada Reads, Amazon.co.uk for Kindle. It's all in there. Yeah. And if you follow me on Twitter at Ninja Votes, if you send me a note, I can always tell you what city you're in, whether it's Port Harcourt.
Ninja Votes.
Yes, at Port Harcourt, Kaduna. It's on sale in different places. So just send me something and I'll let you know where.
This book changed my mindset.
Excellent.
Truly speaking, about the just even understanding the political structure, and I think I have more strategic knowledge. Thank you for writing
My pleasure.
Thank you for coming.
It's my pleasure.
All the way.
Thanks for having me. Yes, I had lots of fun today with you on
Thank you so much. I want to thank you all for watching today, and I believe that, like me, your eyes have been opened. There was something Ayisha said that I'm going to quote. She said, politics has to be the part-time profession of every Nigerian. We cannot stand on the sidelines and keep complaining or keep talking down if we're not engaging ourselves in the process. In the introduction that I read by Professor Kofi Annan, he said that, look, no democracy is born, but it comes by continually going into the process and understanding that it would take a while. Things will not change next year, but they will change as we continue to enter. So engage, participate, be part of the community, not just because you want to be a political office holder, but because you want to see true change, something as little as your street being clean, the gutters being clean, the street lights working, go a very long way. The change begins with you, the change begins with me, the change begins with all of us. Thank you so much for watching Chapters today. Have yourself a lovely evening, and until the very next time, God bless you.